What up, Marsh Pod? It is Christmas Eve for SimWorld Sports universe. February 28th, we are one day away from the tip-off of the SimWorld Hoops season. At long last, the wait is finally over. And I couldn't be happier. As I've said on multiple occasions, it's about damn time. So, to ring in this Christmas Eve edition, essentially, of SimWorld Hoops, I wanted to do the 5 storylines to watch, because I think there's a lot, and I'm going to miss a lot, okay? But these are the 5 storylines that I'm going to watch. I'm going to kick it off with 2 honorable mentions, 2 that I felt were too obvious to put in, and 2 easily we just discussed them. So, the 5 storylines to watch. Pre that, we get the 2 honorable mentions. Honorable mention number 1, how real are the Bay Area Breakers? Obviously, they won 5 championships during the preseason tournaments. Is this legitimate? I talked about it with Bob last week. Now you have to factor in bench. You have to factor in rotation, coaching. Is Bay Area real? That's a major storyline, but that one's too easy and too obvious. The second one, is the chaos that we're seeing right now at the Yacht Club real, or just what's most recent? You've got the removal of Khalil Erickson. You've got the 2-game and then the full season suspension of Adam Max, and then potential changes even beyond that. There's always new things coming out with the Yacht Club. Nothing new that I've heard in terms of is he returning, but that's something to watch. How does that work? My personal belief is that they should, and I think they very well may, keep the full game suspension intact. But again, that's a storyline to watch. Those are the 2 honorable mentions. Now on to the good stuff. Storyline number 1 that I'm most interested in watching is, can Run DMV develop their way to another top player, or are they in trouble? There's not a lot of elite talent at Run DMV, and that's just going off preseason rankings. I'm not saying that there aren't good basketball players on Run DMV, although I know every player is going to get in their feelings when any type of slight is mentioned in some capacity. But here's the question. Last season, Run DMV entered in a very similar spot. Led by head coach Myron Murray, they had good players that you weren't quite sure what you had on hand. And then out of nowhere, Cooper King and Cross became the single best scorer that SimWorld Hoops had. He dominated his way to leading that group to one of the better regular seasons in SimWorld Hoops, and an unfortunate early dismissal of the national tournament. So my question in the story is, can Run DMV do it again? They have certainly players that can fit that bill. You look at Ty Rocco III, great offensive creator, good shooter. Brandon Smith, a good shooter, really good perimeter defender. Trey Trust, Charles Pinkard, both of whom really capable deep threats from beyond the arc. Nick Hugo, probably their best athlete. All these guys have the capability to be that, and we've seen from Myron Murray the ability for him to bring players from relative obscurity into the national spotlight. He got Cooper King across that full scholarship to Maryland. That wasn't something that we expected to see at the start of the season, but they were able to do that. So can they do that again? That's what I'm interested in. Storyline number 2. We're heading to Indiana for this one. Head coach Javad Storm. A lot of chaos that followed them early on in the season, but that's not the storyline to watch. My question is, Reza Red, 15-year-old, 6'10", 235-pound big man, is he, if he is their best player, which currently right now is ranked in the top 10 within 24/7, can he, as their best player, lead Indy Stripes? And if not, are they going to be able to compete? Again, this is not me insinuating that they're not capable of it, because I do think they have a lot of talent, and that's beyond Reza Red. Benari James, has proven to be a good shooter, underrated defender, which has started to come to light. Jay Luss, really great shooter. Johan Novajovic, really talented shooter. These guys round out a pretty good roster right now in Indiana. And I'm not here to say that they can't be good enough, but the question that I have is, can they be good enough or elite enough that if Reza Red, who is just 15 years old, is unable to be the best guy to carry them, are they still a legitimate top 10 potential team. That's all. I think there's bones to it, but it's worth watching because relying on a kid that's 15 years old, no matter his size, no matter his skill set, it's a dangerous, dangerous road to walk. Storyline number 3. With a larger sample size, will Africa and SWH Benlay prove to be legitimate or beneficiaries of a short schedule? Of course, Africa last season went on to win the SimWorld Hoops title, playing, I think it was 4 regular season games, winning the international tournament, and then beating, was it Pacific Northwest in the championship game. Nobody saw that coming. SWH Benlay was a well-regarded, well-spoke of, but not necessarily an elite player. Great perimeter defender, really good at getting downhill, getting into the paint, and scoring in the paint. But as a whole, Africa was not a team that you looked at and said, that's a team, that's the best team in SimWorld Hoops. But guess what? They were the best team in SimWorld Hoops. But were they that good of a team purely because they didn't have to play any other games? We're going to find out because we're actually going to get a full season of a sample size from SimWorld Africa that's going to tell us just exactly how real or how fake that championship was. But till the end of time, they still are the champions last season. Now will be the fun part of watching the follow-up. Storyline number 4. Does the chaos that surrounds Lorenzo Phenom absorb Bad Boys basketball, or do they turn it around? It was a summer of unknowns for Bad Boys basketball. Phenom was he's leaving, he's staying, no, he's going again. Then there's his dad saying that he wants his son to play for a team that's not urban. He wants a more rural team. He doesn't believe in some of these other organizations because of the makeup of the characters on that team. There's a lot of chaos that surrounds Lorenzo Phenom wherever he goes. There's the flirting with Lakeshore Drive. That was most certainly 2 ways. How does that impact legitimate basketball? There's certainly been strides made by that roster and those players on that team to move past those moments. But can they truly move past it? And what does that look like? That's a tough task to ask for Munch Williams and his team, but we're about to find out. And the last storyline that I'm caring to watch were the flurries of moves made by Cascadia and their head coach Isaiah Pope, who came on out of nowhere and suddenly gets all these players to join his team. Were they actually good, or were we just impressed in the moment because we had no other piece of information to go off of? I'm going to lean towards these were actually good. Got Montel Cage, got Jason Tada. Those were some of the big flips that he got. There's other good players on here. Eric Banks, a great shooter. Arthur Lattimore, one of the better perimeter defenders, along with Dan Levin. Chris Owens, really good shooter. There's good talent on this roster. But were we more impressed that this roster was put together on such short notice, with Isaiah Pope having to come out of nowhere when the roster and the coaching position, rather, falls apart in front of this team? Or were these actually moves that made a legitimate semblance of sense? We're going to get answers to all these. But I'm just glad that we're finally going to get answers. Thank God we can watch basketball games and we can let the outcome on the court decide who's better and who's worse, and not who claims to have the better mixtape, who's been in the lab, who's doing this, that, or the other in random threads. Just thank God we have basketball. We'll see you Thursday after a day of basketball, where we're going to come out with hot freaking takes off the stove. All right, we'll see you then.